Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Tinseltown Tragedies, Uncut. This particular episode contains an uncut interview whose portions were included in the Who Killed Christa Helm episode of the series. In this episode, we speak with Detective Larry Brandenberg, the cold case detective with the LA Sheriff's Department who's currently handling Christa's unsolved murder. You can hear the episode Who Killed Christa Helm in its entirety at our website at moviegeeksunited.net.
So I'm very excited to speak to you because I really needed some clarity on some information. So I guess let's just get started. My first question is about the crime itself. Can you tell me about the nature of Christa's wounds and what those indicate about who might have committed this crime?
Yeah, there was both blunt force trauma and a lot of stab wounds. It was extremely violent. Which that kind of tends to dictate it's something personal that she probably knew her killer. I think there were several of them were fatal. So it was a blitz attack. I mean, it was devastating.
You say that there were, there was definitely a knife involved and blunt force strikes upon the head. Has it been established what that instrument was that would cause those?
No. Okay. I'm not certain what that instrument was.
Is it possible that there were two attackers?
It's possible, certainly.
Okay. Were there, because I heard from her daughter that she had heard that an ear witness in the neighborhood claimed to have heard two females and one male arguing in the street that night.
Yeah, there's different reports. I mean, one neighbor I think heard the screaming. And she gets killed right in front of a person's house that she knew. So she was probably going to that house, I'm thinking. Her car was parked rather abruptly. It wasn't parked properly. So I think someone was actually following her in a car, chasing her, following her. And she knew they were a problem by the way she parked her car actually up against the curb. So she got out of her car quickly.
So she knew that she was being followed that night. Was the tire blown out, or was there any indication?
Yes, the one tire was that hit the curb. Yeah.
Okay. And when the person's house, I believe his name was Sanford Smith, when he was questioned, he said that he was asleep and he didn't come to the door at all when she came to the house.
Correct. Which is kind of suspect because. Yeah, from what we learned, I mean, I wasn't the original investigator, obviously, but from what the investigators had learned, talking to people that knew him and everything, he used a lot of drugs, sold drugs, and he cocaine and meth, and he was up at night. He was a party guy.
Yeah.
It wasn't like him to be asleep at that time of night unless he was just so intoxicated from drugs. I mean, I guess that's possible.
And I had heard that the person that discovered Christa's body was actually heading to his house, possibly for drugs. Is that true, or?
Yeah, I think so. I don't have the file in front of me, Jamie. I wish I did.
No problem.
Some of it I don't remember everything. Man, I'm trying to remember who found her body. Did you talk to a guy named Larry Gansey, the original investigator?
I did not. I remember seeing him in the 48-hour special about 7 years ago. Is he still with us? Okay.
Yes, he is. In fact, he called me, a couple of months ago, because he thinks about this stuff, and something will come to him. He'll call me up and say, hey, I thought of this, and it's he really cared about it.
That was obvious from what I saw of him, and I would love to talk to him. Of course, I would.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I'll try to get a hold hold of him and have him call you if I can.
That would be great. If you could give him my email, or I'll give you my home number before we get off the phone together.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd definitely love to hear from him.
Okay.
So how how often do you receive tips on this particular case?
Well, I haven't received anything in a long time on it. I've been so busy with some other cases. Unfortunately, this one's kind of been sitting. But you know, we never have found Sandy Smith. I thought I may have located him in Tennessee, but I haven't had a chance to run over there to see if it's him. He kind of fell off the radar out here. I mean, he could be deceased by now. That's the other problem.
Do you think that you found the right Patty Collins?
You know, she denies it. Her sister says that's her. She denies it. So, but it certainly wasn't her DNA. The girl that we did find. That I know.
And the DNA you refer to was under Christa's fingernail, which was preserved from the crime scene. Now, is that, how certain are you that is indicative of whoever attacked her? That was a defensive kind of DNA left over?
Well, you know, that we can't say for sure that it is. It could have been from some previous contact. You know, that's the thing. We can't say that for sure that that's her attacker. I mean, it's a logical thing to assume, but we have to prove that. But if we identify who that person is, then, you know, we can work around it that way. But, I don't know. This case, you know, her lifestyle, she associated with a lot of very famous, wealthy people, and then she associated with a lot of people from, you would call the dark side, you know, the seedier part of life. Drug dealers.
Well, that's what makes this case such a labyrinth, because there are so many players.
I mean, the list of suspects goes on and on. You know, and so many possible people that could have been the killer.
Yeah. Well, I have two people that I want to ask about. The first one, I know he's deceased, but what can you tell me about Rudy Mazzella?
Well, he was a drug dealer, bad guy, and there was rumors that she was skimming some dope of his, and he was angry about that. So he was up there on our top list of suspects, obviously.
And he had kind of confessed to an acquaintance of his, and then he denied it when the police actually questioned him.
Yeah. I never got to talk to him, obviously,
but I'd heard from your interview in the 48 Hour special. I realize this is years ago, and much more might have developed since I saw that special. But I understand that Rudy had a reputation for kind of inflating his own reputation, kind of lying to make himself seem a lot more dangerous than he actually was.
Yeah, he kind of was a bullshitter. He liked people to think he was more of a badass than he was.
Yeah,
but he was kind of a nut, you know.
And the other person I wanted to ask about and get some clarity on is Tony Sirico, because I understand that he went to the apartment and might have taken things from the apartment, but then I received an email from Christa's roommate Stephanie that told me that it was Lenny Barron that came to the apartment, and she gave up the tapes to Lenny voluntarily.
Yeah. I don't know what. I know Tony knows something. I don't know what he knows, but I mean, he was a real life gangster from New York, and then he became this actor, of course. But when we went back to interview him, he of course had his, and everything was pretty nice until we asked him where he was that day, and then his attorney said this interview's over. and that was that. So, I mean, you can derive 100 things from that, but it certainly puts a red flag up when people do that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's our killer, but he certainly was not cooperative at all.
And you mentioned that he was he was kind of like a low-level gangster in New York, but
yeah,
Christa's...
I think it was. I want to say the Gambino family, but I'm not sure.
Well, Christa's life in New York, how much have you looked into that, and how much does that factor into your investigation?
Well, she wanted to be a Broadway actress, and she hooked up with a producer back there, and she became his mistress. She didn't have what it takes to be a Broadway actress. He knew that, saw it in the right way, and thought that maybe he could get her on TV or something out here in L.A. That's when he moved her out here, put her up in a house. He was paying all the bills. And, of course, she was pretty promiscuous, and I think he found out that she was having affairs with all these other guys, and he's paying all the bills. And that kind of made him mad, so he quit paying the bills and threw her out of the house. And that's when she moved in with Stephanie. So we looked at him, but he was pretty forthcoming. I don't think it was him. I mean, the only other thing that we thought about, we haven't disproved it, is that his wife found out could have been her.
Yeah.
That's something we haven't put to bed yet.
Well, I know it's very touchy, and I understand that he even ran for office a few years back in New Jersey, where he's from, I think. But
did he run? I didn't know that. Did he recently?
Yeah, well, a few years ago, I think he did, because he's really kind of a popular figure in Princeton, which is where he's been living for a long time. I think he's actually a theater critic there now.
Yes, that's what he told us. Yeah.
Okay. I reached out to him.
He wanted to come to the city because when he met us in New York, I don't know if he just wanted an excuse to come to New York or whatever, but that was his caveat to do the interview. But like I said, he was very forthcoming about the affair and everything. And
okay.
I don't know if his wife was aware of it. I think she was, to be honest with you. I really do, but I don't know.
Well, I wanted to ask also, because this is where the plot really thickens, because in the weeks prior to her murder, she was involved in a recording session that was particularly dicey. Can you kind of summarize for me what you recall about the players in this recording session and what they had to do with her?
You mean the threesome thing, the menage a trois, if you will? That one?
Yes, sir, that one.
Yeah, that was with her and Patty and George Hamilton. And we haven't went and talked to Mr. Hamilton, although after the book he wrote, I think he's probably pretty candid about speaking with us.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't think he was involved in any of this murder stuff at all. It just, he happened to, she was doing this, we were told, with a lot of people, celebrity types, but those other tapes disappeared. So we don't know that, but I imagine she was. And I think Stephanie even told her, at one point, you're going to get in a lot of trouble doing this one day, recording these people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a pretty dicey thing. It was just an audio recording.
Well, and there was, while a couple of audio tapes were recovered, whatever listing that she kept was missing. Do you believe that it was in her purse? Was her purse taken from the scene?
Yeah, I think her purse was missing, I believe. So, I mean, she could have had something, because obviously there was something in there, because it wasn't a robbery, she didn't have that kind of money, so there was something in there that somebody wanted. Now, whether it was in the purse or they just took the purse in case it was, that's unknown. Or was it that stuff that Lenny went and got?
So was Lenny... Was Lenny I'm sure Lenny was questioned after the murder, correct?
Yeah, they talked to him. They were actually pretty close, apparently. Her and Lenny were quite close. They knew each other in New York.
Yeah, I need to tell you that I tracked down someone. I tracked down an acquaintance of hers in New York that spent a lot of time with her. His name was Jeremiah Newton, and he referred me to a guy named. He wasn't as close to Christa, but they spent a lot of time together in the same group. But he referred me to a guy named Kent Moran, who was really close to Christa. He was about 19 at the time, and he was new to New York. And have you ever spoken to him?
I don't think so.
Well, he told me something that I said that I'd share with you, and he said that he made mention of going to Christa's house in the Hamptons one time with her friend Denise, and I said, "Who's Denise? I haven't heard that name before."
Yeah.
And he said that Denise was a really close friend of hers. They even went to Haiti together when she shot that movie in the 70s.
Oh, really? Really?
And that Denise, he saw Denise in Miami not too long before Christa was murdered. And Denise told him that she had to get away from Christa because she was into some bad stuff and she didn't feel safe being around Christa.
Really?
So I had never heard anything like that before, and everything I've read about Christa's case. So I told him that I'd share it with you, and if you need his phone number, I'll give it to you. This is what's after New York. He left to go to Florida because I think his family was from here, and I live in Florida. So when I tracked him down, I thought he lived in L.A., and he said, "No, I live in Florida." And as it turns out, he's 45 minutes away from me.
What part of Florida?
I'm right between Tampa and Orlando, and Kent is in St. Pete.
St. Petersburg,
which
okay.
Is, right outside of Tampa. Let me give you his number.
Okay.
But he had a lot of information that I'd never heard before about Lenny and Christa. Apparently, Lenny had a modeling agency called Oddities in New York. And it's according to him, it started out as a prostitution front, and that's how Christa was introduced to the Shah of Iran, because he was a client of that. I mean, he told me some really, and I believe him because of the manner in which he revealed it. I didn't prompt anything from him.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't know she had a place in the Hamptons, though. I didn't think she was doing that well in New York, but if she had clients like the Shah of Iran, I imagine she was.
Well, and I've heard, I mean, he's very descriptive about the interior of her townhouse in New York and the Hamptons, and so I think he's on the up and up. So
yeah, okay, yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. So after that, I'm not sure what to ask you. What do you make of the just real quick? What do you make of the Salminio connection? Anything?
No, nothing at all. Totally different crime. Yeah, that was discounted pretty early on, and it just same area. When Salminio was stabbed one time, that was a whole different thing. That was a robbery stuff that was going on, and this is totally different. This is more of a passion thing. I mean, the way she was killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it possible to know if? Well, she wasn't taken by surprise, but is it possible to know if Christa was coming back from Stewart's? Not Stewart, Sandy. If she was walking back down from Sandy's place, or actually just arriving and going up to his place when she was murdered?
I think she was just going up to it personally, but again, that'd be pretty hard to be definite
to prove.
On. Yeah.
And were there tire marks present at the scene?
I think there are some tire marks present in the scene. They actually go through, went through some of the blood, I think, that kind of thing. was partially under a parked car. I don't know if she just ended up there or tried to take refuge under it. But her feet were under a car.
And the other players in the recording studio, people like Debbie Danilo and Blair Aronson, they were questioned and they were kind of, they don't have any part in this, you don't think?
No, Debbie Danilo, we got her DNA. It wasn't hers. We found her down in Texas. And, yeah, we eliminated her, at least as being a donor of that DNA. I mean, you know, that's assuming that's our killer's DNA. So if you take that away, then anybody's still a suspect. You know, could this DNA have been from a prior, some kind of consensual contact with another female? Yeah, it could have been. She was at a party that evening, and her and Stephanie were there together, I think. And I remember Stephanie saying Christa seemed troubled and wanted to tell her something, but she kind of dismissed her, or she was going to go off with some gentleman. That night, Stephanie was. Now she regrets that, but
tell me about the DNA, because I mean it obviously did not exist then, but it's a good thing that they kept the nail so it could later be tested. But what's the kind of the veracity of DNA after 3-4 decades pass?
Well, I rely on my criminalists, the scientists, when they tell me we can get a good profile off this, or we got a good profile. If you find the person, we can give you a match. You know, we got a good DNA profile off of this substance DNA that they got on those nails. So now our task is to find one that matches it. That's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. So there hasn't. I'm so sorry. So there hasn't been any more promising leads that have led anywhere since that 48-hour special a few years back?
No, but there is. For my own peace of mind, I want to go take DNA from someone we've talked to more than once already. Just hadn't done it, but I think it's something we need to do. And then again, that's just to cover the bases. But like I say, at this point in my mind, almost everybody's a suspect, because we don't have anybody that just jumps out there and says that's our killer. You know what I mean? It's just not like that. I wish it was, but it's just not there. There's so many players.
Yeah, it's terribly confusing. But for maybe some people that think maybe the easiest explanation is actually the one that happened, how certain are you that this was not a mugging?
Well, the reason I think it's not a mugging is this took a lot of work to stab somebody that many times, to kill them in that way. That takes a lot of energy. That takes a period of time. It's just not easy. A person gets tired out stabbing someone that many times, that in a violent rage like this. And usually if it's a mugging, you're going to get what you want and get out of there quick. You're not going to spend that kind of time where you're actually so pissed off that you're taking this personal. You just want that purse, basically. And this is more than that. I mean, if you look at her body and the shape condition of it, then I believe it's more than just wanting that purse.